My name is Tiffany Q, and welcome to my ABRSM Grade 5 Theory Lessons series, where I record snippets of my live lessons with my students. Please note that this is not a substitute for a textbook. If you're preparing for the theory exam, I would still recommend having a teacher to guide you through both the coursework and exam paper preparation. The final question of the ABRSM Grade 5 exam is question 7, Music in Context. In this question, they will be asking questions based on all topics that you've studied so far. They'll give you a piece of music as well, either a solo piano piece or piano and another instrument, as you can see here. We have the oboe on top and the piano as the bottom. It says, study this music for oboe and piano and then answer the questions that follow. I'm going to be going through this exam paper question. This is from the 2023 practice paper B, but I would recommend that you do at least 3 to 5 of these questions, either in the ABRSM workbook by Sir Simon Rushby or practice exam papers as well before you go into the actual exam. So the first question 7.1, it says compare the following bars to bar 6 of the oboe part, then tick the one correct statement. So if we read the statements, it says only A is correctly written 1 octave lower, only B and C are correctly written 1 octave lower, etc. So all of these are asking for something in common, which is 1 octave lower. This is quite similar to the question in pitch 2.4, where they ask you true or false questions based on whether melody is an octave higher or lower, or 2 octaves higher or 2 octaves lower. But this question, they only ask you to tick one statement. So we first need to identify the correct place. Bar 6 of the oboe part. So that would be here. And what I usually like to do for questions like these are draw in where the middle C is first. So middle C is here in the treble clef, which means that G is a 5th higher. So if we're looking for an octave lower, it would be just below middle C. So that note would be the note that the music must start on in order to be 1 octave lower. So let's take a look at all of these examples to see which one of them are a 4th lower than middle C, and therefore a whole octave lower than that first note in bar 6. So if I draw in the middle C in the bass clef here, I see that that G is indeed a 4th lower, so this one seems to be correct. This one as well, middle C in the tenor clef is there, so that one's also correct. And in the alto clef, middle C is here, so that note is also a 4th below, so this one's also correct. So the correct answer should be A, B, and C are correctly written 1 octave lower. The next question here, 7.2a. These are all true or false questions, as you can see. So the music should be played energetically. Well, as soon as I see energetically, I want to look at expression marks. So I see here allegro ritmico, so fast, lively, rhythmically. But then if I look at the other words, I do notice this, energico, written in both parts. So it is true that the music should be played energetically. Next one, the music gets gradually quieter in bars 5 to 6. So if I look at 5 to 6, I see crescendo poco a poco, which means gradually, little by little, getting louder. So that is definitely false, because if it was diminuendo, then it would be gradually quieter, but it's actually the opposite. Question C, all of the notes in bar 8 can be found in the key of F minor. So let's take a look. We need to refer to every single note in both parts if they were just very general about just bar 8. So everything must be in the key of F minor. Well, let's take a look at the key signature first, which we can find at the beginning of the piece or the beginning of any line of music. We've got 4 flats, which is the key signature of A flat major or F minor. So that's all good. F minor, it does match. But let's take a look at the other notes now. We have to check specifically the accidentals here. So we do have an E natural, and in F minor, the raised 7th does happen to be E natural, so that is true. all the notes are found in the key of F minor. If we saw a D natural, that would also be true, because D natural would be the raised sixth in a melodic minor scale. So do consider both harmonic and melodic minors when looking at any additional accidentals. If there were no accidentals here, it would still be found in F minor technically. Sometimes when they ask you for a question like this, but they say major, if you see some accidental that doesn't really belong, because the key signature is in the key that they're saying, but then there's an extra accidental, then that would be false. However, if they have a different key to the one that the music key signature is in, but then that accidental in the bar just happens to be the one in the accidental that they're asking the question. That's also another possibility of how they could present this question to you. But again, do many questions, do many exam papers to get a feel for the style. Question D, the notes of the oboe part of bar 3 are the same as those of the right-hand part, piano part in bar 1. So let's take a look. The notes in bar 3 are the same as the right hand in bar 1. So then that's just looking at them and comparing one by one, and it does look like they are the same, so we can circle true. The lowest note in the left hand piano is E, so let's take a look. First of all, check the clefs. We've got a treble clef in the top and bass clef in the bottom. Sometimes they might change clefs in the middle, and that is really tricky as well. So since the bass clef is in the left hand, we're just going to take a look at the left hand, and it looks like this note here is standing out as the lowest one. This note, if we look at the key signature, is technically E flat. So the question that they just asked, the lowest note is E, is actually false. It's not E, it's E flat. Huge difference. It's a difference of a semitone. Question 7.3 will usually be a question about the range of the orchestral instrument. So it says, which instrument is best suited to play bars 3 to 6 of the oboe part? So that would be from here to here, so that it sounds at the same pitch. So in the oboe part, it's in the treble clef, and oboe players always play in the treble clef, and it's generally from like middle C onwards, quite high notes. So we need an instrument that also plays similar notes in the treble clef. So the trumpet does play in the treble clef, double bass plays in the bass clef, tuba, bass clef, and bassoon, bass clef. So the only one that even plays comfortably in the treble clef is the trumpet. Now you might think, well, a double bass player could surely play that too, and that might be true if they're really, really good and they're really suffering to play that. However, we want to find the instrument that can play it the most comfortable and the most naturally. 7.4. How many times does the dominant in the key of A flat major appear in bars 1 to 4 of the right hand piano part? Very specific. Bars 1 to 4, right hand, and then piano. So dominant, this is the technical terms from question 3.7 in the keys and scales section. But dominant means the 5th degree or the 5th note. So the 5th note of the scale of A flat major has 4 flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. So the 5th note would be an E flat. So we need to find how many times does the E flat appear in bars 1 to 4 of the right hand piano. In the right hand of the piano part, we look at specifically this first line here. So we're going to count just bars 1 to 4, it's just the first line here. So that's 1 E flat, that's 2, that's 3. Keep looking, make sure to check every single note. That is my 4th one, 5th one, 6th one, and 7th one. I'm just going to double check to make sure I haven't lost any. So E flats. Make sure to check all octaves as well. Yes. So the answer there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Complete the following 2 sentences by adding a number to each. There is an interval of a minor tenth between 2 notes next to each other in bar something of the oboe part. So when they ask intervals, generally they're speaking about like 2 notes right next to each other, or it could be an interval where they're playing at the same time. But generally it's the former, unless they really specify. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each oboe note and just ask ourselves, like, what's the difference between what's the distance between the two notes. So this A flat and E flat, that's a fourth. So this, we're looking for a 10th here. That's the same note. These are all going down a step. These are not big enough. This is a G flat to an F, that's a second. Now here, F to an A, that there is a 10th, indeed. And then if I just keep looking, E to E, that's an octave. Okay, so the only place that even is a 10th, without us even checking if it is a minor 10th, is here. So we write bar 5, but just to, as a brief revision for intervals, F to A flat. And if you need some revision on intervals, do check out my other intervals videos because they're quite detailed. But F to A flat is a third or compound interval. So it's a compound third or a 10th. And with thirds, we always compare to the major scale. So in F major, the third note would be an A natural, and that would give us a major third. Since this is an A flat, it's one semitone lower than a major interval, so it's a minor interval. So minor third, compound minor third or minor 10th is perfect. 7.5b, all the notes in bar something of the piano part are marked to be played staccato. So it doesn't specify which hand, so it must be both hands. If I look at the first bar, I do see some slurs, so that can't be it. Now, if I look at the third bar here, and I'm going to just get rid of this so we can actually see, we notice that every single note has a staccato on it, so it must be bar number 3. But let's just double check every other bar as well. So this one here, I've got a slur here, so that's not staccato. In bar 5, again, some more slurs, and more slurs. So the only bar of the piano part where both hands are playing staccato all the way through is bar number 3. And if you've got this far, I just wanted to wish you the very best of luck in your music journey. And thank you so much for your support and for watching my videos. Please like and subscribe to follow along for more. And if you have any suggestions about future videos or any questions or anything else that you think students would find useful, please drop them in the comments below. I'll definitely take a read.